is a financial mistake so common, so widespread, so deeply ingrained in modern life that most people make it every single day without even realizing it. It is not overspending, not failing to budget, not avoiding investing, not living paycheck to paycheck. Those are symptoms. This mistake is far deeper, far more psychological, far more destructive than anything you were ever warned about, because it silently eats away at your entire financial future while making you believe you're doing nothing wrong. It's the mistake that keeps millions trapped in the same routine, the same stress, the same paycheck cycle, the same ceiling year after year. And the worst part? Most people think this mistake is normal, just part of life, something everyone does, something that can't be avoided, when in reality, it is the very thing preventing them from ever moving forward. What is this mistake? It's simple. 90% of people use money emotionally instead of strategically. That's it. That's the mistake. But the layers beneath it are so deep and so powerful that once you see how emotional spending controls you, manipulates your habits, blinds your decisions, and sabotages your ability to build wealth, you will never look at money the same way again. Emotional money management is the killer of dreams, the destroyer of long-term wealth, the silent enemy that operates in the dark corners of your daily routines. It is the financial autopilot that pushes you to buy things you don't need, avoid uncomfortable truths, delay important decisions, distract yourself from long-term goals, and soothe your insecurities with short-term dopamine hits. And because this happens on a subconscious level, most people don't realize how much of their financial life is dictated not by logic, but by impulse, fear, stress, boredom, insecurity, comparison, convenience, and habit. Think about it. Most people use money to feel something rather than to build something. They spend to feel excitement, novelty, relief, escape, validation, comfort, satisfaction. They spend to reward themselves for working hard. They spend to numb the stress of their job. They spend to distract themselves from problems they don't want to face. They spend to cope with boredom. They spend to keep up with the expectations of others. They spend to fill emotional gaps that have nothing to do with financial strategy. And every one of those habits drains potential wealth from their future. When emotion drives your financial decisions, you aren't controlling your money. Your emotions are. Millionaires know this. That's why one of the first systems wealthy people develop is the ability to detach emotion from money. They don't use money to feel better. They use money to build better. They separate emotional gratification from financial decision-making. They understand that the money you use emotionally disappears, but the money you use strategically multiplies. That separation, that mental split between emotion and action, is one of the biggest advantages the wealthy have over everyone else. And that's why most people struggle. They never learned how to think about money in a way that protects them from their own impulses. But emotional spending is just the surface layer. The deeper mistake, the devastating underlying truth, is that most people build their entire financial life around the wrong questions. Instead of asking, what will help me grow long term? They ask, what feels good right now? Instead of asking, what builds wealth? They ask, what solves my stress today? Instead of asking, what expands my future? They ask, what comforts my present? Wealthy people reverse that thinking entirely. They ask, what decision today pays me for the next 20 years? While most people ask, what decision today helps me escape the next 20 minutes? And that single difference, that subtle shift in perspective, creates completely different realities. Another layer of this daily mistake is that most people never track their money because they're emotionally afraid of what they'll find. They avoid looking at their spending because it forces them to confront the truth, that their habits are killing their financial progress. But ignoring your finances is a decision, and it's one of the most expensive decisions you can make. The wealthy know that clarity is power. They track, they review, they optimize, they study patterns, they understand where every dollar goes because they know that money is a tool, not a mystery. Meanwhile, 90% of people use avoidance as a coping mechanism, but all avoidance does is delay the breakdown until the consequences arrive. Emotional spending also causes people to adopt a mindset of financial reaction instead of financial intention. Instead of creating a plan, they respond to impulses. Instead of thinking like strategists, they think like consumers. Instead of acting with purpose, they act with pressure. Most people react to bills, react to emergencies, react to desires, react to stress. Millionaires design their finances with intention, structure, automation, and clarity. They act first and feel second. Most people feel first and act later, and that delay is where wealth dies. Another brutal truth is that emotional spending destroys discipline. Every time you satisfy an impulse with money, you weaken the muscle that builds wealth. Discipline compounds just like money does. Every time you resist immediate gratification, you strengthen your future. Every time you give in to emotional spending, you weaken it. Most people lose control of their finances because they have no control over their impulses. But millionaires understand that the ability to delay gratification is one of the foundations of wealth creation. They don't sacrifice their future to soothe their present. But the daily mistake goes even deeper than spending. Most people also make emotional decisions about income, about investing, about saving, about opportunities, about career moves, about risk. They choose comfort over growth. They choose fear over action. They choose familiarity over opportunity. They choose excuses over progress. They choose later over now. And every emotional delay costs them thousands, sometimes millions, over the course of their life. Most people don't invest because they emotionally fear losing money. They don't start businesses because they emotionally fear failure. They don't change jobs because they emotionally fear uncertainty. They don't learn high-income skills because they emotionally fear discomfort. They don't save consistently because they emotionally fear sacrifice. They don't build long-term wealth because they emotionally crave short-term relief. Meanwhile, millionaires understand that every great financial decision feels uncomfortable at first. Growth is uncomfortable. Investing is uncomfortable. Discipline is uncomfortable. Planning is uncomfortable. But discomfort is temporary, while wealth is permanent. Most people choose temporary comfort and permanent struggle. Millionaires choose temporary discomfort and permanent stability. Another dimension of the mistake is that people think financial strategy starts with money, when in reality it starts with psychology. If you don't fix your internal patterns, no financial system will save you. You can't budget your way out of emotional spending. You can't invest your way out of emotional fear. You can't save your way out of emotional avoidance. You can't grow your income if you're emotionally attached to comfort. First, you fix the psychology, then you fix the finances. But the biggest financial mistake people make daily, the one that keeps them stuck forever, is living as if money is something that happens to them instead of something they direct. They believe money controls their life instead of them controlling their money. They let circumstances dictate their financial reality instead of building systems that protect them from those circumstances. They let impulses govern their decisions instead of allowing long-term vision to guide them. Their money decisions are reactive, emotional, scattered, unplanned, unintentional, and then they wonder why their life never changes. Millionaires take the opposite approach. They treat money like energy that flows where they direct it. They give every dollar a purpose. They create systems that move money toward wealth automatically. They eliminate emotion from key decisions. They detach their self-worth from their spending. They don't use money to escape the life they have. They use money to build the life they want. They don't treat money emotionally. They treat money strategically, and that is why they win. And once you see this truth clearly, once you recognize how much of your financial life has been controlled by emotion instead of intention, everything changes. You begin to understand that wealth isn't built in moments of excitement. It's built in moments of discipline. You realize that freedom doesn't come from earning more, it comes from mastering yourself. You see that your biggest financial enemy isn't the economy, inflation, taxes, your job, or your circumstances. It is the emotional autopilot you've been living on. The day you stop treating money emotionally is the day your financial life truly begins. The day you stop making this daily mistake is the day wealth becomes possible. Not because the world changes, but because you finally do.